What is the most dominant predator in Path of Titans? Is it the terrible Tyrannosaurus Rex? Or the terrifying Tyrannotitan? Maybe it's the Giganotosaurus. Actually, I would argue it's the Raptor Packs. So it's kind of a trick question because you have to be in a group to make this work, but the Achillobators with the either Latins or Deinonychus Raptor Packs, Mob Boss Packs, or even just a mix of the two. On Apex Killers, you can mix Achillos with either Latins or Deinonychus, and you can have 4 Achillobators, and you can have 6 Latins or Deinonychus. So if you get a group of friends together, 6 to 10 friends, you can set up one of these groups, and it's absolutely the most dominant force in the game. And I'll show you why in these videos. The Achillobator, when it's by itself, it has a mob boss capability that gives itself more damage and armor, and it also gives its little raptors more armor. And together, it magnifies the damage by a lot. And each hit of the Achillobator is going to do apex level damage to most dinosaurs, and then they've got a cruel swipe that does even more damage to the heavier creatures. And that's the main damage dealer, is that claw swipe or the cruel swipe. You've got 2 of them, one for everything and one for the big stuff. And both of those, you can switch them out depending on the target. You know, it's a nice thing about the Achillobator is it's small and fast, so you can run off into a bush somewhere, switch up your kit to suit the situation at hand, and then go on a killing spree. And I swear, when I'm in groups with friends, we annihilate and kill more things together as these little Raptor Packs than anything else. It's a combination of really high damage and DPS and a small, fast creature that's hard to hit. And when you put those together, it is a recipe for disaster. For the opponent, that is. And it's a recipe for success for you and your friends. It's probably the easiest thing to use when you're in a group. You can kill just about anything. The only thing you can't really mess with is semi-aquatics, and you got to stay away from the water. If you can do that, then that's pretty much your only kryptonite, is the water, and you can kill anything you want to, really. And it's a lot of fun. If you get a big group of friends together, this is what I highly recommend that you do. And you'll see in these clips to follow what I'm talking about. When people get swarmed by these, you can just see the panic set in. And they try different things. They usually try coming up to a rock like this, but it's actually working to our benefit for them to go up to a rock like that, because we can jump off the rock without taking damage and they can't. So it's a good way to get them separated. It's a good way to get a hit in and get out without them being able to return a hit on you. You can get them separated where one of you is pounced on the other one, because when there's 2, one of them can just bite you off of their friend when you're pounced. So it's very dangerous when there's 2 of them if they stick together. But like I said, usually in the beginning of the fights, they panic. In this case, these ones came up and looked like they tried to take a bite on one of us first, and so the fight began. And right here is a perfect situation. See, I'm pounced, and that guy could have come up here and bit me right off of his buddy, but instead he's chasing my friends. And then I can just get the damage in and jump off the rock, and he can't follow. But usually, this is what people do. They'll go up to a rock, and by the time they figure out that that's a bad place, they've taken way too much damage, and then they don't have time to really relocate without taking even more damage, because they have to run in the open to get to their next spot. So these guys chose the bridge, which also was, a little bit better, but still, it's very good for us because we can get on that bridge and get a hit on them and then jump off, and there's no way for them to chase and follow and really get a return bite. There's a couple of times when I run in and they do get like a lucky hit on me, and it hurts, but I can just jump off the bridge and they can't follow me to finish the kill. So it actually really ends up working out in our favor. The best thing to do is to go to water really against these Raptor packs because that's really their kryptonite. They get stuck in the water and it's pretty much game over because anything can just reach in and kill you while you're trying to swim. Like see right there, he got a really devastating bite on me right there, but I was able just to jump right off that bridge and come to safety and heal up. So the best thing to do is try to catch people away from the water so that it takes them too long to get to the water. When you're in a pack like this with all the buffs stacked, you really output tons of DPS, and by the time they do get down to the water, they're dead. And you'll see that in this case right here with this Tyrannotitan. When he finally realized that he was in big trouble, he's trying to run to the water, but there's such a distance between him and the water that it's just not, he can't get there quick enough. Rexes are a pretty dangerous opponent because they do have clamp, and they can clamp any of the Achillos and or the Deinonychus or Latins, and if they do it, it's game over. So you've got to be super careful if they've got clamp. Usually in the beginning of a fight, like in this one here, when we realize they're not really using clamp all that much, we know that we probably have a better shot at fighting them. A lot of people aren't used to using the clamp on the Rex because it's not something that you use a whole lot, but it's the tool that you really need to fight the Achillos. So it's still a pretty dangerous fight, but he really should be using water as well. Now you can use the Achillo. You can use bite, Raptor strikes, or shred. I don't really like shred because it can only be used while you're pounced, and you're not really pouncing a whole lot. You can do it every once in a while, but for the most part, I'm using my cruel swipe and my regular bites to do hit and runs. And then they've got the other one I like to use a lot of is the ripping kick, because the ripping kick, it lunges you forward, dealing medium bleed, so you can, and it also helps you get in and out, get a hit and get out really quick. And so I'm pouncing very selectively with them. So, and I also don't want a bite that only can be used on the pounce, so I'm either using regular bite or Raptor strikes. The thing about Raptor strikes though is that it stacks up. It's a quick attack that increases in power with each hit. And so the disadvantage with Raptor strikes is that if you're fighting something small and fast, then each hit that you get on them is not doing a lot of damage. You have to really be stacking it up on a bigger, slower opponent. So, if you're in a big pack, you can use it, and it works pretty well because you know you're just going to be targeting big stuff. And if you do get attacked by something smaller and faster, you've got a whole pack with you to help. So it's not that big of a deal. But if it's only a few of you or just one of you, then I definitely would use bite. Bite can also work just fine when you're pounced and even against the bigger enemies also. So sometimes I just tend to just use bite all the time because it's kind of an all-round ability that's always good. When the Achillo's by itself, it does have Lone Hunter, but when you're in a pack of Raptors, if you're the lone Achillo, you can use Mob Boss, and that's going to increase the damage of all the Raptors in your group by 10%, and it stacks 7 times. So each of those Raptors can have 70% extra damage. Now in this server, you can only have 6, so it's going to be 60%, but that's a lot of extra damage for those little guys. When you got multiple Achillos in a group, you just use Hunter's Instinct, and that increases your movement speed when you're not in combat. So that can help you get away or get into a fight. And then I'll use Claw Attack mostly because that's going to be doing medium damage to everything. And then it also does additional damage if you're pounced. So it's a really good primary weapon to use. And then if you're going to go against something that's really big, it's going to be an Apex or a Sub-Titan, Rexes, Karks, Gigas, then you want to use Cruel Swipe because that's going to do even more damage to those heavier enemies, and you don't have to be pounced to use it. And it's fine just to run by, get hit and runs with that Cruel Swipe, and that's typically the primary weapon I use against those bigger guys. And then I like hollow bones because it does reduce your jumping stamina cost, and you do actually do a lot of jumping with these guys. And then when you have your raptors with you, you use strength in numbers, and that increases the Achillo's armor by 10%, and it also increases your raptors by 10%, and it stacks. So it's really, really helpful. Ripping kick is great, like I said, for getting in and out, dealing bleed. And then you've got pounce. And then sometimes I will use leader of the pack. It increases your speed while you're grouped with small raptors, and they also get a 25% increase in jump height. But if there's more than one Achillo in the group, it doesn't work. And it's not always, having the extra speed and the extra jumping sometimes can actually hurt the Deinonychus, especially because that 25% increased jump can make it very hard to pounce because you're just jumping so high and so far. So typically I'll just use pounce and hunter's instinct. Hollow bones. On the tail, you can either use rudder or counterbalance, and the counterbalance uses 15% less stamina, and then the rudder gives you increased jump control, and it reduces fall damage, and it reduces jump stamina cost. So I like rudder because you tend to have already enough stamina anyways, and you tend to do a lot of jumping and a lot of falling when you're fighting on these guys. So I really like the extra stamina you get when you're jumping, and also the reduced fall damage, and it does help to have that extra jump control. Bark is really good because that gives you 8% damage with for each raptor, and it stacks up to 10 times. So again, with 6 raptors with you, you've got an extra 48% damage. So it's just damage stacking on damage stacking on damage. The downside to bark is that it takes a lot of stamina, and you need a lot of stamina in these fights. So it doesn't last all that long, and it takes a lot of stamina. So you've got to use it very carefully. One of the Achillos in the group is usually using mocking cackle, because that reduces the effectiveness of bucking, so that way when everybody's pounced, you can stay pounced longer and do more damage. When I'm solo and even in a group, I also like panicking sprint, because that replenishes your stamina, and it reduces the attack damage of the nearby creatures, so you always want one Achillo using that one. I typically use that one as the Achillo, and then I've got a couple of the other Achillos using the bark, and then one of them using mocking cackle as well. Warcry can work. That gives you 25% armor and stamina recovery for the other raptors in your group. But the Achillo, when you're in a group, is usually doing most of the damage. So I like the other calls better. DB Giga is also one of the most dangerous opponents, like the Rex. The Rex has Clamp, but the DB Giga has Stomp. And the DB Giga can use Flesh Graze to just get its health back. And it's a quick attack, that Flesh Graze. And it's easy to land it. So between their tail attack, their tail knockback that they have, their Stomp, they've even got a Charge, their Flesh Graze, all those tools make it very, very dangerous to fight. And it is definitely a challenging fight, these DB Gigas. It's probably the hardest. I think we've lost most fights to a DB Giga that just lands one stomp. If they land a stomp, it's game over. I think it's like 200 damage, and that'll either kill you or take most of your health down, take you out of the fight for quite a while. It'll certainly kill a Raptor or a Latin in one stomp. Now, you can use Deinonychus or Latins in these groups, and I personally prefer Deinonychus. My small group of friends, we prefer Deinonychus. It's usually what we're using, and that's mainly because the Deinonychus is harder to hit, it's faster, and it has Lucky Feather. And Lucky Feather will allow the Deinonychus to take a hit without dying, and instead of dying, it gives you half health and half stamina so that you can go off and heal. Then it puts a timer on there for like 5 or 6 minutes, so you can't use it again for a while, but it's a great get out of jail free card, and it's something that the Latin doesn't have. And the Latins are a little bit bigger, so they are easier for these bigger creatures to bite and hit. So we find that we have more success using the Deinonychus. The Deinonychus also has a double jump, so it's easier to get in and out of battle. And then it's got strong grip, where you gain 200% increased armor for 5 seconds once you latch on a pounce. And they have Slicer, which gives them the ability to get health back. You can rip a chunk off and get health back. They do have Raptor Strikes and regular bite. I kind of switch between the two. If I'm in a big pack, I usually use Raptor Strikes because I'm mostly pouncing with the Deinonychus and doing damage that way. And we're not really threatened by other mid-tiers and small tiers because there's so many of us. But if you're in a small group, just 1 or 2 Deinonychus, and you don't have an Achillo with you, bite is definitely better because you want to have that ability to do more damage per bite. And then we always use Pack Hunter because that increases the health recovery by 25% when it's equipped, and it buffs all the raptors in the group when there's 2 or more Deinonychus in the pack that are within 75 meters, and it gives them 20% increased damage for 2, and 3 Pack Hunters gives you 25% increased pounce damage and stamina drain. It decreases your pounce stamina drain, I should say. I don't really use On Alert, and I don't really use Escape Artist. I like Static Cling and then Loose Down, where you can heal 20% stamina when you're hit by an attack. But that can only be triggered once every 60 seconds, and it doesn't work while you're latched. So I'm typically using Pounce and Sever Tendon. Sever Tendon's a kick attack that you can use it while you're latched or on the ground. While you're latched, you do bleed, and when you're on the ground, you debuff the opponent and cause it to go slower, and it stacks up to 5 times, and it's 2% each hit. So you can actually make them go 10% slower, and that's pretty helpful against like mid-tiers and sub-apexes. You can use Tail Fan, but you have to replace that with Sever Tendon, so you have to choose one of the two. And I don't really need a quick forward boost to speed usually on the Deinonychus because it's already so fast. So I just stick with the Sever Tendon kick. I never use Rat Out. The call that I use is Mob Rally, especially when you're in a mob boss group, because it increases damage while pounced by 20% and it stacks up to 10 times. So that also applies to the Achillos. So Mob Rally is definitely the way to go with the voice. Again, the guy's trying to use the cliff, and it's somewhat helpful because you can see I'm missing a lot of my jumps, but there's so many of us. I mean, there's so many chances we have to pounce them that eventually somebody's going to hit him. And there's no way for him to chase us down and get a hit back on us because we're jumping down, off that cliff, and he can't do that without taking a lot of damage. So it's not the best place. Really, the water is a better place to go to. So it's always good for us when we get the guys that like to stay up here and fight rather than go down to the water. As soon as they start going down to the water, if they get close enough, we just quit because it's too dangerous down there. You've got threats of, Sarcos, Capros, Dinos can all clamp you from the water, and they're all allowed to third party you. And also, if you get stuck in the water, you don't swim very well, and like the thing that you're fighting will have an easy time to just bite you and kill you. One of the biggest mistakes that people make in these groups, and why I think a lot of people don't really run these groups a whole lot, is because it's very hard to get a good coordinated team together. These guys are really, really squishy, so you have to be super smart about when you go in to get a hit. If you know that you don't have enough of a health bar to go in and get a hit, you shouldn't even go in. But most people don't really know what that amount is, or they just get, over aggressive and they want to just get that one hit in. They think they see an opening and they go for it, but then the creature just turns and bites them and kills them with one bite. And that's how we lose a lot of our fights. So understanding your health bar and understanding the damage of the thing that you're fighting is really, really important. And patience is really, really the key to these fights. You have to be patient and smart and tactical when to go in and when not to. You'll see like a couple of us, like Tinnery over there is way too low to be going in right now. He'll get killed in 1 to 2 hits. So he's staying away. He's getting water. He's staying in bushes to try to heal up while we finish the kill. If a lot of these bigger creatures that we fight have stomp as well, DB, Gigas, Karks, and this Edmont have amazing stomp abilities. And so you have to know when to pounce and when not to. And the most important thing there is to bait their stomp out, and don't pounce unless you know they've used their stomp and it's on cooldown. Because if you pounce them and they haven't used their stomp yet, when you're done doing damage to them and you jump off, if they time a stomp just right, it'll kill you. So you've got to be super careful about the stomp, and that's again how a lot of us die, is by the stomp, mistiming a pounce, and falling off right when they stomp, and that'll kill you instantly. This Edmont's actually a semi-aquatic herbivore. It can dive and swim, and I know the name might not say that on the name in the server or on the Edmont, but it can dive and swim, so it's effectively a semi-aquatic. So it should really be going to the water way sooner than it is. Like I say, I think they panic a lot when we first start attacking, and they don't know what to do until it's too late. You see right there, I got stuck on him, and that's another thing that happens a lot, is you get stuck on the creature if you go in a little bit too far, and then by the time you turn around and try to run away, if they get a stomp off, it can kill you. You see, we got lucky a couple of times with these stomps with this guy, where it didn't hit us. But for the most part, we were timing it and staying away from it. But these packs are dangerous to just about anything. The biggest threat to us is hats, because they can clamp you and fly away with you. At least to the Deinonychus. They can't clamp the Achillos, but they can the Deinonychus. And then stuff around the water, like I said, all the different crocodilians. But other than that, we can defend ourselves very effectively against just about anything. Maybe a Dominus that comes down and breathes fire on you or something could be a big problem, but usually those are easy to see coming. And then anything with clamp, Rexes, Zucheng, Tyrannus, and then all, like I said, the crocodilians and stuff. Those are all the biggest threats to you, because you can't really defend against the clamp if you do get clamped. And this guy's finally running to the water, and that's what he should have done immediately. When you see a big full pack of raptors like this, you immediately head to the water. That's the way to fight against them. Because otherwise, the DPS that we do is so much that you're going to be dead before you know it. And like I said, that's typically what happens with all these guys. They panic, and then by the time they realize they need to be getting to the water, if they do realize that, it's way too late. Solo Apexes, especially PT Gigas, are like the easiest target, because they don't really have much to fight against you. They are kind of squirrely, and they can turn and bite really fast, so they might get some bites here and there on you, but there's so many of us, we can swarm it and kill it. It doesn't have a clamp, it doesn't have any way to slow us down or stop us, so they're probably the easiest target. The Kark has a stomp, and it has a charge, so it can get down to the water really fast, and if it uses that stomp, it'll kill us. Same thing with the DB Giga, it's got a stomp, so those are the harder ones to fight. Also, the Kark, the way it turns like this when I'm on it, he should have been turning and biting right there, because they can actually hit you when you're on the side of them if they do it right. Yeah, this is definitely the most dominant predator, I think, when you're in a group in the game. Obviously, that's the whole key, is that you've got to be in a group to make it that dominant. But I don't think there's anything else that's as effective at killing its prey than a group of these guys. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely the most successful time we have in large groups is on Raptor Packs and Mob Boss groups. And I don't know of a group of anything else that's stronger than this in this game right now. And the cool thing about the Achillo is you can also run it solo or in pairs or small little groups, and it's very effective even that way too. If you have a bunch of raptors with you, it's just even more deadly. So they're a lot of fun, and wanted to share that with everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think. Do you think this is the most dominant thing in the game right now? Or am I missing something? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, guys, hope to see you out there in battle. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.